Live now?
Yeah, let me start the recording. Yes. No.
Okay, as I was saying, thank you all for joining us today on our first parallel session, which is part of the online exhibition Together Apart, Going New Places, that opened on last Friday to the public. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marina Hadjilouca. I'm a performance designer and a curator of this exhibition. For our first session, we decided to concentrate on a topic which we think is quite relevant to today and what is happening due to the COVID pandemic in relation to the art world. We will be discussing the mobility in the arts in the post-pandemic era. Just before we start, I would like to go through a few housekeeping rules or notes for tonight's event. Those of you who have joined us via Zoom, I would just suggest to click on the speaker view, which you can find on your the top hand side of your screen. This way you can see the person speaking and everyone else will be on the top of the screen. Also at the bottom of the bar, you can find a Q&A box that you can post your questions to the panelists, and we will address them at the end of the section during the 10-minute Q&A. At our panel today, we have the 7 exhibiting artists, Adamoglou, Michalis, Charalambous, Demetra, Kallitsi, Panayiotis, Mina, Alexandros, Pissourios, Siamptani, and Natalie, Yiaxi. And they will be talking about their practice and will be answering questions about today's topic as well. And last but not least, joining us today and co-chairing is our project coordinator, the Cultural Council of the Cyprus High Commission here in the UK, Dr. Psaras. Maria, on to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome the 7 artists on behalf of the Cyprus High Commission and congratulate you for your amazing work, your contribution to the online exhibition Together Apart, Going New Places, an exhibition that is organized by the Cultural Section of the Cyprus High Commission, sponsored by the Cultural Services of Cyprus, and under the diligent and meticulous curation of Marina Hadjilouca, whom I especially thank for the great collaboration that we had the past month or so. Clearly, the governments across the globe had to prioritize the containment of the coronavirus and protect the people's health and safety. However, the broader economy and society cannot be overlooked, including culture and the arts, and the arts world, including arts professionals who have been significantly affected by the crisis. Arts and culture constitute an elemental characteristic of human civilization, one that cannot be rendered obsolete, because it is a fact that science and reason have often failed us. However, art has always been there to connect us back to what makes us humans, to provide oxygen to our minds, to our souls, proving its diachronic relevance. Now I'm going to give the floor to the artists to introduce themselves and their work. But before that, I would also like to welcome our audience, those of you who are watching us here on Zoom, as well as those of you who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Now I'm going to give a round to the artists, beginning with Siamptani.
Thank you, Marius. First of all, thank you both for organizing this amazing exhibition. It was a great experience to work with everyone and present something online. So a little bit about me. I am a design practitioner based in London, currently on lockdown. My research is based mainly on material research with an interest in jewelry design. So I practice different methods of different use of technologies within jewelry design, and then different material research as well, which I take forward to all of the students that I teach in different institutions. And I also present my research, my PhD papers that I present in different conferences as well.
Thank you, Mala. On to Hun.
Hello to the viewers on the internet, to Marina, Dr. Psaras, and to my fellow Cypriot artists here in the group exhibition. I am a fine artist based in the United Kingdom, and I primarily work within the mediums of oil paints and graphite illustration, producing artworks in a figurative form. A significant percentage of my work, that is, its content, is upon the subject matters relating to the individual, and also the relations between people, specifically within the boundaries of an urban environment. I primarily attempt to focus the viewer's attention upon the solitary character and endeavor to stir the queries of the spectator, that they may ask questions relating to issues of what is meant by such things as fellowship, physical and emotional distance, and detachment, and what effects the private and public environment has upon a character. For the online exhibition, I have contributed 4 works, 3 paintings and 1 illustration. All works glean over the topics of the individual, individuals within groups, and social relations.
Brilliant, thank you. On to Natalie now.
Oh, hi everyone, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I am a visual artist based in Nicosia. I mainly work with time-based media, text, and artist books. In Together Apart, I am presenting 2 works. The first one is Hyperflaneur. It is a book work I converted into a video for this show. It's a project that it began in 2017, initially as a pastime during that time in queues and waiting rooms. And in the process, I realized that doing this with a plan in mind could give me a glimpse of the different modalities and living conditions around the planet right now. So using my smartphone and Google Maps, I visited every country and all dependent and disputed territories in the world. And in the video version, I used the audio channel in order to communicate different moods that I experienced in the process of making the project. The second piece is a sound piece called Massive Hangover. And it's a short recording from the bookwork music album, What Is to Be Sung? Answers to the Burning Question by Charlie Burley. It's from 2012. And it's a project which contains songified thought improvisations where I reflect on everyday experiences. I began working on this project in London after finishing my studies before coming back home. So, and I finished it in Nicosia. So back then I was observing how different everyday things, like for instance, riding a bike in London was different to, like the same experience was different in Nicosia. So I was recording these thoughts and also reactions to coming back home and news at the time and social media, which were becoming increasingly a part of our daily lives, which is, I think it's relevant now as well. So yeah, that's it. I can't hear you.
Sorry, thank you, Natalie. I'll pass on the mic to Michalis now.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, many thanks, Marina and Marios, for the invitation to participate in the exhibition. It was my pleasure working with everyone. I really enjoyed it. I'm a visual artist living in Nicosia. My work combines ceramic, painting, digital media, and filmmaking. Through my practice, I explore the boundaries between space, body, object, and identity by making use of digital technologies and traditional media. In my work, I am examining the contradictory terms of analog and digital, physical and visual environments. Also, I examine possible forms by combining means of 3D softwares and analog photography techniques. In these exhibitions, I propose different ways of touching a vessel to interpret interaction of the post-human, the object, and the space. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Michali. I'll pass on the mic to Alexandros now.
Hello, and thank you, Marina and Marios, for the invitation. It was a great exercise, and for this one, I'm a filmmaker. I'm not a full-time artist, I must say, to begin with, because it kind of informs the way I approached this project as well, because I had the time during this moment to reflect and revisit some footage I had accumulated throughout the years of working as a videographer on fashion shoots. And through this kind of image-based industry that I was part of as a filmmaker, I wanted to finance my own projects through it, sometimes by using the cameras that were given to me, or sometimes just being in a place where I happened to be on a job. So this moment gave me the opportunity to revisit and kind of reinterpret this footage, and that's sort of what I presented for this exhibition. A kind of a meditation on what it means to be an artist, but also have another role in an industry, and the conflicts this might bring up in someone's practice, and how eventually that can be, if not resolved, made bearable in a way. So I think that is sort of what I took after Marina invited me to think of this project, and that's the video I made especially for this exhibition. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alexi. Demetra, would you like to take it on?
Hi everyone, I'm Demetra. I'm a conceptual artist working in the mediums of performance art, textiles, and creative writing. My work for the exhibition was created during the lockdown in Cyprus due to the coronavirus pandemic. So during this period, I spent my afternoons taking long walks, observing nature, taking daily photos of the changing surrounding environment, and reading and writing poetry inspired by Western haikus. The work that is exhibited is a selection from the photographs and poems that I have collected during this period. And I should also mention that the poetry is written in the Greek Cypriot dialect and presented in the form of audio recordings.
Thank you, Demetra. And we have Pan as well.
Hi everyone, and again, thanks to everyone for making this happen. It was really nice and a nice way to get around the lockdown, even though for some of us the lockdown must be easier than on other people. I'm based in Cyprus, and I do audiovisual work using photography, video, and music, or sound in general. For this exhibition, I presented fragments of new fragments of an already existing work, where I negotiate the relationship between artwork, myth, music, the music industry, and the art industry. So by creating, by deconstructing already elements that I already had made a few years ago when I presented my first musical album. I tried to dissect and represent several elements of the work, and in that way kind of distract the audience and think about how presentation of art versus presentation of music versus a performance versus any other piece of art would work. And I think it was interesting because this is a new reality for, I think, everyone, and it's I think it's a bit too early, and hopefully this lockdown and pandemic won't go for long, but it's interesting to see how these new ways of exhibiting and sharing work will go.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Pan.
Marina, before we go to the first question, I'm really sorry for jumping in. First of all, I would like to say that it's amazing that we have Panayiotis going live from the countryside and hearing the birds. Secondly, there was a comment on Facebook that I would like to respond to, why this conversation takes place in English and not Greek. So I am obliged to respond to this, first of all, because not all the panelists are Greek speaking, and secondly, because our aim is to appeal to a broader international audience and bring Cypriot art, Cypriot artists to a bigger platform. Anyway, most of the events are organized at the High Commission, at the Cyprus High Commission in London, are done in English. That's my 2 cents. Now we can go back to the amazing contribution by our artists.
Thank you, Maria. Just also one more note, because I noticed that we had attendees joining after I did my housekeeping. Just to say that anyone who wants to pose any Q&A questions, they can do so by writing them at the Q&A section that you can find on the bottom of your screen, and we'll address them at the end of the session. So now for our first question, which we're thinking to ask you guys, what was your experience in terms of arts mobility and artist mobility in the pre-pandemic era, and what do you think that were the opportunities and challenges that were involved? And I was thinking I would like to pass on this question first to Mala, as I know that you were not only as a practitioner traveling quite a lot, but also as an educator.
Yeah, I traveled quite a lot the past 2 or 3 years now, in different universities abroad or different smaller schools and different conferences. So part of my practice is really to engage with lots of people in different art fairs and festivals and different kind of conferences and universities. So it's always about bringing lots of people in a classroom or in a space to discuss about different materials and ways to kind of develop different ways of thinking about design.
Brilliant, thank you, Mala. I'll go on to Alexis, maybe. Again, I find very interesting how not just your artistic practice, but also, as you mentioned, working as a videographer for fashion shoots, you were traveling a lot, and that was also part of the opportunity to develop your artistic practice. So,
yeah, I think in this case it sort of fell into place. The way things kind of worked in terms of what the footage was, where the footage was shot. I think in terms of traveling and mobility, things will definitely be affected. But in my case, the moment that this happened found me in a place where I was essentially fine-tuning and rethinking my methodology and my production values outside the industry. So in a sense, I was kind of having this undercurrent of sort of practice that I was developing based on the jobs I was taking on as a professional, which again had a lot of some traveling involved, because some of them are based in Cyprus. So every 3 months I would shoot there because I could go there and spend some time and come back and see the footage here and edit and then go back. So I guess in a very peculiar sense, I created my own economy of making work that was sustained by an industry that was an ongoing, well-oiled machine. So that's how kind of I set it up for myself. It was sort of a very conscious decision I made a few years ago that this is what I'll be doing. But now we've reached the breaking point. So I guess there's opportunities to rethink a few things. Yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. Thank you. Natalie, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, so far nothing has changed for me in terms of mobility because traveling, I don't know, fluctuates. It depends on opportunities that might arise or not. So it's never planned. What I'm thinking, I don't know what the effect that this will have on a local level, like when the community will be able to, I don't know, physically meet again and visit actual spaces again. And yeah, because it was also very vital. I mean, a lot of the action here was made through like artist-run spaces and collaborations. And I guess for now we will have to think of new ways until things come back to normal or some sort of normal.
Cool, thank you. Hun, maybe?
No problem. Outside of the studio, my primary focus would be galleries, established galleries, primarily across the United Kingdom, establishing connections with them and relations. And pre-pandemic, this was all streamlined, predictable, and reliable. It was if you could imagine an electronic chipboard with very fine wires interconnected with each other. And this was the impression I was left with the art world. And my personal experiences are when it came to applications, the bureaucratic movement within the industry was fluid, and it wasn't that challenging to do something, whatever that something might be. And these are my personal experiences. I'm not saying it was easy as ABC, but compared to now, it was much better, yes.
Brilliant, thank you. Michalis, I don't know if you want to say something.
When I had the opportunity to be involved in different activities that required mobility, like international residency, it was very important for my practice and helpful because I was able to be with a network of artists from all over the world and exchange informations, knowledge, idea, and experience. I think mobility is directly related with the opportunity for dialogue. The challenge, however, for me, I think is time. I'm not only working as a full-time artist, so it is a challenge to have or to find the appropriate amount of time to develop my work. It is also a challenge not only to find the time, but to balance and manage time needed. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll go on to Pan.
I think what Hun said about how did he say it? Conversation or personal relations, and then what Michalis said about that being mobile is directly linked to opportunities. I think I will definitely agree to that. I mean, for me, I think there are two ways of seeing it. Whether one is this one part of personal relationships, of meeting new people and grabbing kind of new opportunities that arise from these relationships, which for me I think are the most fruitful in a way to really connect with people and then find an opportunity to share work with them or exhibit together. Like last year I did a sound installation with an invite from friends from Poland, and I mean, this was immensely helpful for me. First, because having a full-time job in Cyprus rarely allows me to look for residencies or long-term programs. So for me, it's important to program 1 week or 2 weeks of actually going somewhere and presenting work. The second thing that's interesting is the platform, because especially with my performances, I will most times will be site specific. So if the site doesn't exist anymore, or if there is a change of how we view the art, or if there's if there are broader changes in how we perceive space with how this particular period that we're going through now, if we see those changes, then I think it'll be interesting to see how the work can kind of adapt to these new spaces, let's say. And one of the in what I presented for this exhibition, I also have a link to a mixtape I made for a radio station in St. Petersburg, which for me will, it's again dealing with different ways of showing work to different audiences, and online radios are now abundant. So I was making that point, let's say, in my contribution to this exhibition.
Great. Thank you, Pan. I will go on to Demetra now to hear from her.
I'll agree with Panayiotis. I think pre-pandemic we have arrived at a state where it was very easy to travel and to live abroad for short or longer periods of time, like participate in artist residencies or programs or exhibitions and so forth. And I love such experiences personally. I think being exposed to new environments and stimuli allows the artists to reinvigorate their practice and to reevaluate their practice. However, like participating or providing the funding can leave you sometimes feeling like you're chasing after your tail. So it can be very lengthy and time consuming. So what I'm saying is just that the whole pre-pandemic process was far from perfect. So I think this is a great opportunity to seek new ways of being present from afar, let's say, reevaluating and readjusting our practices and habits, and also ironing out some of the processes in the system.
I would like to get the discussion back to the present moment, and I would like to ask you guys, what has this period of, let's say, quarantine and social distancing and lockdown has taught you? I mean, you have already mentioned many things that are currently making you rethink perhaps your practice. But what are your fears? I mean, has this situation initiated any moments for you to rethink your practice, or to rethink about things that you would like to change in terms of your position in the arts world and the opportunities that you would like to see coming up in the future for you? Mala?
Yeah, I think this situation now has given me the gift of time. So I now have time to think of how to readjust my practice. So I also had the time for this exhibition. What I presented is a series of bio jewelry. So it gave me the time to actually, away from my studio, to sit in my kitchen in my house and create new recipes, new bioplastic recipes that I could share with the people that I teach and also share with the public. And it also gave me kind of the opportunity to have, because of all of this time that I have now, I became a little bit more tech savvy. I learned how to make gifts. I'm focusing a little bit more on how I can create my jewelry a bit more digital. So how to create more augmented reality applications for my work. So how to take the physical back into the digital and vice versa, how to create jewelry that are physical, and then how to take that kind of research further now that I have time away from my physical studio.
That's great. Hun, how about your experience of the current moment?
It feels as though a main road has been closed to me, and I have to look for an alternative route. And it has pushed me to focus a great more attention upon my online presence, to concentrate more upon my shop front, so to speak. And I have noticed in the last fortnight how I have placed more emphasis on learning certain things that I didn't know about in regards to the use of social media systems. So yes, I had to become more tech savvy. I was finding myself talking with teenagers who know absolutely everything about Instagram and Facebook and so forth. And they were more than happy to talk to me for hours on end about how to put a story up on Instagram, and it lasts only for 24 hours and all of this. I was basically, as a professional, skimming the surface of these tools. And it has forced me to look at my fingerprint on these systems with far more determination. So that is another portfolio of projects I personally need to focus on more.
Would you say, sorry to interrupt you, would you say that this opens your practice onto reaching out to new audiences as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's made me more conscious of how I can reach a broader audience. For example, rather than rather than simply writing in English, I could, for example, involve tags in different languages, because regardless of what the work is about, art is a universal language. If you can obtain an individual's attention just for a split moment, say like, for example, writing in Italian, for example, the title of a painting of mine, and then sticking it as a tag, it will grab the attention of an Italian, maybe somewhere in the world. But they really don't need to know what the painting is about, because the painting will explain itself to a degree or so. That is the beauty of what we are dealing with in our profession. This is the magnificence of art. It goes beyond all boundaries, or may it be physical boundaries or boundaries of time. It's universal. So I'll stop there, or I'll continue.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to ask Natalie to tell us about her own experience of the current moment.
I must admit that I do enjoy a part of this lockdown. I mean, not having to go to like my bill-paying job is really invigorating, because I have time, and I realize that for artists, time is the ultimate material. And I mean, you know, being able to research and work and take as much time as you like on working on something is amazing, really. And not having the anxiety of, I don't know, like sustaining yourself because all you have to do is go to the supermarket. So it's great. And well, I don't know. I don't know how this lockdown and this situation will change my work, because I think that like a practice evolves organically always. I mean, my work changes every time I move to a new space. So I think time can only, I mean, I have to wait and see what actual changes will bring to my practice. But I definitely want to maintain this like freedom of time somehow. I don't know how, but we'll see. That's it.
That's very important, yeah, indeed. So it makes you realize, if nothing else, your needs in terms of your practice. So it has been a moment for all of us to, you know, step back a little and rethink what we are doing and how we can do it better. Thank you very much, Natalie. I'm going to Michalis.
Yeah, so the current state has allowed me the time, of course, as Natalie said, and the opportunity to rethink and try to redefine my practice on a different depth and with different understanding. It gave me time to write, to think, and to question things. So I ask myself questions like, how do I present my work? How can I change the ways I present my work? How can I link or connect analog and digital materials? What is physicality? What does it mean? I think I prepare myself to become more diverse in order to obtain multi-skills, to be more adept in any situation, whether this is done through a physical or a virtual environment. So I think current situation gave us access to a new kind of knowledge on culture, knowledge that already existed but was not clearly visible as it now. Yeah, yes.
Would you like to tell us what kind of knowledge is that? Are you talking about specific skills?
I think the...
Are you becoming a tech savvy as well?
No. I think it's we all access culture in the culture portal, like free performances, presentations, exhibition, interviews, films. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important. Perhaps this time that has been allowed to us was also a time to further our knowledge and appreciation about art. And this does not apply only to us who are in the arts world, art professionals or artists, but also to a broader audience that has been offered the opportunity to access theater, film that was inconceivable to get onto before. Thank you very much, Michalis. I'm going to Alexis.
Yeah, so firstly, I would describe myself as tech savvy to begin with, or even further than that. So that hasn't really changed. That actually made me realize that there are some limitations to that, and maybe some forms of disappointment embedded in viewing things on a certain screen or in that sort of contained environment in relation to maybe a cinema space or a gallery screening, or where you feel immersed and you feel like you're trapped and you have to endure whatever is in your screen instead of just being seduced by distraction all of a sudden and changing your mind and going to the next thing. So I think that for me was made more clear And even though I'm guilty of going through things furiously and jumping from one another, I feel like the current situation has allowed for admitting to myself that I miss or that I long for a commitment in terms of viewing and experiencing work. And I think that is something that it's not like I wasn't expecting it, but I think I was pleasantly surprised that it gave me a little bit more of push maybe to imagine works that live outside the small screens, and not small as in less important, but small as in, small as in the phones we use and the things we look at on our laptops. So that's how that's where I arrived through this current state.
Yeah, definitely this element of nostalgia is prominent in theoretical debates around digital technology in general. So should we fear, Alexis, that this might be the new normal? Should we fear that people might get used to it and not get back to the theater, to the cinema theater anymore?
I don't know. I think there's an element of sociability that comes with going to the cinema that this doesn't have, and that was apparent to me when I left the video. I abandoned the video online, and then I felt like, I kind of wanted to have a drink and watch it with someone, or at least see who came and made the effort. So I think that's never going to be something people don't prefer. There's obviously opportunities to, give your attention in different ways. And I think that is, even if it's a terrible way, you can still get something from it. So I'm not going to judge that one is better than the other. I'm just saying I might prefer the sociability aspect of it to come with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Demetra, can you tell us about your own experience?
I think what the current experience, what the current situation has taught me is to take things more slowly, and that being unproductive is also totally fine, and also has something to give you. But also to work with mediums other than the ones that I'm already comfortable with, or that they're in my comfort zone, let's say. Making the most out of far from perfect situations. So like being confined in a very small space for long periods of time. I think it has taught me to utilize whatever I can find around, even more so than before. And not just in terms of materials, but also to work with the surrounding environment. Also that on a different point, that inspiration or the starting point for an idea can be found in simple things like walking around the neighborhood, in my case, or listening to the neighbors talking, or watching plants grow, or observing animals and insects.
That's amazing. Thank you, Demetra. And Panayiotis.
Yes. I really liked what people said about time, and what Natalie said, that time is the ultimate material. But I think what's interesting about this time is the uncertainty of it. So you know, I can say, you know, it's early. I can use these words and say it's still early to see like where this will take us, or you can just be kind of optimistic in a way and say, okay, now, you know, from next month we'll be back in the galleries and whatever. But you know, there is to go back to technology and how we present ourselves, and there is this meme which has a time traveler asking, what time is it, and what year is this, and someone says 2020, and the time traveler says, oh, the first year of quarantine. So for me that's really
that's
like
scary, actually.
scary, but it's also interesting, and how about how uncertain this is, because I mean, I know there are some estimations, and I know there is you know, people are talking about it, but we are really just, I think, scratching the surface of what this thing can be. So, you know, obviously we're all optimistic, and we're, you know, continuing to work, and, you know, having this self-reflection, and, you know, the world is kind of, you know, you see all these rhetorics about, you know, after this thing is done, maybe we need to rethink about eating animals, or how to live, or how to. My personal experience is that it's been a few years that I've decided to live outside of a city, in the country instead. So for me, this slowing down and reducing you know, your biological footprint, and you know, taking time to actually breathe, has been this for me has been going on for some time now. And maybe this is why for me it's a bit easier than for some other people that I talk to be in this state. But yeah, like I said, I think the most interesting thing is the uncertainty that this thing kind of permeates to, and
so how can one artist respond to this state of perpetual uncertainty?
I mean, I'm lucky enough to be not only part of an artistic community, but I'm also lucky to be part of other groups as well. Like, because like I said, I've expanded my practice to music as well. So, I mean, we've already responded with, you know, playing music live, and I mean through Facebook, or having performances there. And like Alexis said, it's, you know, you kind of feel that this thing is the best you can do now, but obviously there is you know, better things to achieve, and there is no replacing, you know, sociability and actual human contact. So this is a bigger kind of issue. But I think by producing work constantly, for me, is kind of like it's been 2 months now. I've spent 99% of my time at home, where I have a small studio. I have, you know, I go for nature walks, and I haven't stopped producing work, and reaching out via, you know, online means. So this is, with how the situation is now, this is the only thing I can kind of think of, and it's a very immediate response to what's happening.
Yeah, but you're illuminating a very please correct me if I'm wrong, but as I sense it, your response and your experience, that you have kept yourself creative, and that not much have changed out of your daily routine, perhaps sheds a spotlight on how our lives have utterly been affected, at least in terms of those of us who live in cities, or even big cities like London, for example, which has changed completely both our daily routine and our practice and the way we work. And yes, we are limited to a screen 24/7 for our entertainment, for our work, for our contact communication.
What I'm saying is, I mean, you're right. Not a lot has changed, because I have chosen to slow down anyway, even before this thing. But you know, obviously some things have changed. I would have work 3 or 4 times a week, and I would, you know, commute all the time.
Yeah.
So I think what I still think is most valuable is instead, I mean, now it's just a chaotic kind of response to what's happening. And you're saying that we are stuck on the screen, or we have the screen for entertainment. I think, you know, eventually people will, you know, if a situation like this goes on, people will kind of reject the screens as well. And you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of people take walks, you know, around my house where back in the you know, like a few months ago, no one would bother, you know, coming for a walk in the, you know, in nature. And now, but I also, for me, it's important, you know, I've been playing a lot of guitar lately, so for me it's important to kind of detach. It's also as much as it is an opportunity to show things on the screen and to interact with people on the screen and everything, it's also an opportunity to detach yourself from that and go back to practices which have more physical implications. And you know, practice other things, you know, that.
That's actually beautiful and very optimistic message. Now I'm gonna give the floor back to Marina for the Q&A. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you for your answers. There's some quite inspiring answers as well, and contributions. We have a couple of questions. There's a comment by Marie in the chat box about the Instagram profiles. You can just to say really quickly that you can find them all on the exhibition website, in the About section next to the artist biographies. And we also have a question by Katerina Patsalidou. Katerina is asking, she's saying, many people still find it intimidating to visit a gallery or even go to the theater. I presume this question is for responding to Cyprus that's out of the lockdown now. London is still in lockdown. Do you think the digital way is a new way of attracting audiences that don't consider themselves art lovers or theater goers? Anyone would like to respond to that?
Yeah? I would say, sorry, Marina. I would say that it's more general. I don't think it refers to Cyprus in specific. Like perhaps Katerina is in Patsalidou refers generally to people who don't go, who usually don't go to theater or art galleries, and maybe the digital way is a new way for them to visit art that didn't do beforehand.
Mala, I think, was raising her hand to answer.
It could be both ways. It will have its positives and its negatives. I think we touched on it a little bit before. Everyone kind of touched a little bit on this subject. There will be, obviously, this, if it's an online platform, it's open to a more diverse audience. So people who couldn't physically go to the theater, they can actually watch things now digitally. But also it means that the people who you would try as an artist to really pull in the art space now will have another option to see them online. So it will come, I think, both ways for sure.
Yeah. Pan also.
Yeah. I wasn't sure you could see my hand. I'm not sure I understand what Katerina, was it, that means by people who are not. I mean, I think a general and kind of diachronic problem with art is that you know, a lot of people don't feel that it has anything to do with their lives, or you know, you know, a lot of people feel that it doesn't speak to their needs, or you know, and these are issues that are, you know, forever will be embedded in the practice of art. What I can say on from my behalf is when I started researching and going from you know, a gallery performance to presenting an album on Bandcamp, let's say, which has a completely different you know, it's a completely different platform, and it's a you know, the audience changes immensely and the context changes. So when I was looking at the relationship between these two ways of actually getting work out there, you know, it doesn't really change the fact that some people will feel connected to some objects and other people won't. So, and it's, you know, an artist doesn't, you know, for me, an artist is doesn't need to communicate to anyone. It doesn't need to be friends with anyone. I mean, showing art and any kind of art is first of all for me a personal relationship with the artifact, with the object, and then, you know, the audience will follow on this. So, but I think 2020, I mean, I've seen so much material even online, and that a lot of people, if, you know, they take the time, will find art which appeals to them and which kind of, you know, has something to do with their actual experience of the world and their own lives. And so I mean, obviously it's more democratic to be online, and it gives more people the opportunity, but I mean, it doesn't really. In the Western world it does, but, you know, think of people who don't have access to the internet, think of people who don't, I mean, yeah.
Demetra?
I'd just like to add that some things cannot be done digitally. I mean, speaking from the point of a performance artist, I mean, recorded performance will never be the same as watching the actual thing, especially if the performance has to do with the participation of the audience, if it depends on it. If it's something interactive, let's say, so it can never be done online. I understand that it might work for some things, for some mediums, and it's quite nice that more people would be able to join, even the people who are intimidated, and I understand that, to be honest. But I don't think it works for all mediums.
Yeah. Can I just really quickly add that on that? I mean, it goes the same to theater, which is, I mean, obviously the theaters and galleries at the moment have been they have been posting online a lot of material to keep the audiences engaged, but you can't really have live theater online. I mean, you may have a performance, but theater needs to be live. So yeah, does anybody else want to say something on that? Natalie?
Yeah, because now there was this rise of I mean, I think especially performing arts could not be replaced by like online versions of them, because now there was this rise, watch this performance, watch this concert, or visit this museum. It's never the same experience. I mean, now we're finding ways to react to it, but I think in the long run, it won't be sustainable. I mean, nothing can replace the real experience. I mean, you need to be in contact with something. And also the aspect that Alexandros was talking about, the social aspect of it. It's germinating relationships, and it creates connections that are necessary for an art scene and for the arts in general.
Thank you, Natalie. On that, we also have a comment from Marie Schaller. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. More of a reflection on what Alexandros was saying about the small screen, and that relates to what Natalie was saying as well. But also broadly speaking, I think social media are also opening new doors, new possibilities to communicate about the creative process or show work you won't show in a gallery. I found that valuable as an artist. Thank you. Does anybody want to say anything on that?
Yeah, sorry to again take the helm. About the social media and also what we said before. For me, it was really influential, the rise of this visual social media, and you know, things like Instagram, for instance, which I use quite a lot into creating this kind of narrative about you know, my life versus, you know, my art, which, you know, sometimes what I do is blur the lines between those two. So yeah, what I was going to say is that obviously online material will be more democratic in many ways. But what Natalie was saying, that the experience of something should not, I think one of the big traps now is that we mediate experiences. For instance, I would always, you know, listen to a recording of an opera, let's say, but because we live in Cyprus, we don't have an opera. So the first time I went to an opera is when you realize you've never heard opera before, you know. And another thing, I was always, you know, there's a painting, I know, I don't remember the artist, but it's a classical painting of a skull, and it's a still life of, you know, and I've always seen it in books, and I've always seen this painting, you know, when I actually went to I think it was in the Louvre, or, you know, when I actually saw this painting that was this big, it's you feel something different, and it's always, this is always a trap in you know, that we have with social media. We get all this information, but it's kind of mediated and it's kind of 2D, whereas the real experience, and there are already a lot of examples which are already, you know, a lot of people, especially younger people, have already missed out on opportunities to experience something real. And if there is something to negotiate during this time where we are forced to experience things online, is this relationship between, you know, the physical relationship of the body to the environment, which can be either art or, and it's what I was saying before, it's very different to, you know, to work on something with your hands, and you know, to learn from this physical experience than to just take it on visually.
Yes, thank you, Pan. It's also, Marina, if I may, it's like reinventing or rediscovering affect, and the physicality of art, and the importance of touch, which we were never allowed to touch usually when we had to come across with an artwork. But it's also the feeling of it. We have a relevant comment on Facebook by Argyro Nicolaou. She says sculpture, installation, painting, scale and materiality, and even other bodies in space. which is also very important because it reveals this element of sociality mentioned by the artist. Alex wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe not take anything back, but actually suggest that I'm just wondering, in the same way that a text is translated to another language, and someone could argue it loses some of its nuances or meanings, but what if instead this translation just offers another layer to this text? So I guess just to maybe give it a bit of hope, maybe just to, you know, a small screen, yeah, it doesn't mean it's a small screen in context, but it is something different. And I think to be moved by someone physically is one thing, and to be moved by something in another way, whatever it is, digital or not, is also possible. And I think that I've had that experience. And I think it's, yeah, I just maybe wanted to kind of take it down a notch from it being something real and meaningful and substantial, and then the rest is something completely different. At least in my head, I'm trying to bring them a little bit closer. But yeah, that's it. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a common question that is related to this discussion, again from Argyro Nicolaou. So I'm quoting, "It's true that the present situation and the move online has expanded the potential audience for artwork and exhibitions, with the conventional avenues for viewing and experiencing art in space closed off to us, like museums, galleries, art spaces, or with those spaces very strictly monitored and regulated in the near future, because we will come across this danger, let's say. Will we have to completely rethink what it means to experience art? Or I would add to these, not necessarily to completely rethink, but taking the cue from Alexis, maybe to discover new ways of experiencing art. I think we have covered this topic quite a lot in this discussion, but if any one of you wants to add something, Mala?
I think it's important to remember that this technology and all of these new tools are not there to replace the physical connection of us in the space and the artwork. So exactly like Pan was saying before, the experience of being in an opera house is nothing of, you know, watching it online. But what we're all developing now at this moment to develop different ways that we can think about how to experience something, so we can have something else, another tool to view our world and how to experience it. It's not there to replace it in any means, I think.
So yes, I think we all agree that it's like a complementary way to experience art, and not something that would replace the physicality or the sociality that is involved in the original ways that we have been experiencing art so far.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Do we have any more questions?
I think Natalie wants to say something.
Now about, like, in the future, how technology will come in and create new experiences, like new ways to experience these things with more senses involved. But at the time being, it's a bit sci-fi, like a sci-fi scenario, I think. Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean,
yes, I mean, there was
technologies in place that are like AI and VR technologies, the so-called immersive technologies that are being used. I mean, for sure, I know that they're developing them quite a lot and using them for museums, the bigger museums, and for sure architects are using them quite a lot. But again, that's I don't know how much it replaces, or I mean, yes, it's another way to experience or be in a museum. Something. It's like your hyperflaner. You can use. You can be in another country from
never go there.
But you're not really there, or so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Pan?
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna say that if anyone's seen Mad Max, this I think this is a very real reaction of maybe what will happen to me if you know, if this thing goes on, and you know, make a scary mask and then find you know, a four-wheeler and ride around you know, deserted landscapes. And anyway, I don't want to scare anyone, but that's kind of a cool scenario to think about, and how to maybe, you know, I mean, your experience can change in that way. Or instead of like I said, instead of looking to the screen and experiencing art, or you know, you can experience other things.
Actually, Panayiotis, what you're saying now is a very good cue to one question that we have, Marina, from Facebook, which is related to. I'm gonna just read the question. So it's from Lorna V. She's a writer writing about, and she's particularly interested in psychology. So she would like to ask you, where are you all on the introvert-extrovert spectrum, and how does this affect your practice? I guess by this she means the current situation. How does this affect your practice and you as individual? Who wants to go?
Are we? Do we all answer this?
No. It's not compulsory. If someone wants to answer.
I'll go. It's
Yeah.
fine. So this lady was asking if we are introvert or extrovert as characters. Did I understand it? Oh, I am exceedingly introvert, believe it or not, very, very much so. And I have to make great strides in my character in order to be fundamentally social. It's the way Mother Nature made me, so there it is. And it has been a personal challenge for me, because you have to network, you have to be social, you have to go out beyond your comfort zone and walk across the gallery floor to an individual and start a conversation with somebody and share business cards and exchange emails, etc. So that's my aspect, that's my skeleton in the closet, so to speak. So, and what was the other part of her question? I'm sorry, I forgot.
And how has this affected your practice? If it has affected your practice.
It most definitely has, because social media, for example, it's like a beast with a bottomless pit for a stomach. It's constantly requiring material. Yeah. And as an introvert, you wonder, do I really want to show the world aspects of my life? Not that there is anything to hide, but how much of yourself do you actually give to this carnivorous digital being? And I've often wondered that, and I've looked at other artists, and they throw in front of this this being all sorts of things from their menu. For example, unfinished paintings, because it won't wait for that painting to be finished. It wants it now. It wants it maybe once a week, twice a week, in order to keep your audience attached. So as a non-extrovert, that I found this somewhat of a personal challenge, and also you have to contemplate the presentation value of what you're giving to people. You don't want to just you have to think about, it's not just a question of photographing something, but it's a question of how you photograph it. Is it aesthetic? Is it pleasing? Is it capturing a person's attention? If, for example, if I was a jewelry designer, I wouldn't just put it on a dirty table, for example, with crumbs of bread around it. There would be a nice, clean, ornamented fabric with crisp white light, and it requires much attention. So you are more than one professional. You are an artist, you are a photographer, you are a storyteller. You have to be many things in one skin.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sorry, I diverged a little bit.
Thank you very much. Alexis wants to say something.
Yeah, I think with this question, I immediately thought of another kind of circuit of exhibitionism and voyeurism. So it kind of maybe is a continuation of introvert and extrovert these days, because you can be an introvert but also be an exhibitionist. Based on what we've just heard, you kind of are in conflict about what you show and how you show it and what you actually share. The value of those things for me are maybe questionable, and the currency is not, it's like monopoly money basically, so it's not like real in that sense, but it does have an effect on people. So I think to maybe answer the question, I'm not really sure if I'm an introvert or an extrovert, but there is an element of kind of oscillating based on the technology that gives you and pushes you and maybe makes you a bit compulsive sometimes to step in on other grounds of your multidimensional personality and not just be an introvert or an extrovert.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexi. I think we may have reached, I don't know if you have any final questions on Facebook. I can't see any on Zoom. But if not, I think we have reached, we've gone well past our time. And I think we've reached the end of this session of today. Just to sum up a bit, I don't know, Maria, if you want to say something.
No, I would just like to thank you everybody for your invaluable contribution both to the exhibition and to this panel. It was so enlightening to me, both about your experience as artists in the current during the current situation. It was very enlightening in terms of art and mobility in general, the present, the past, its future. About lots of important ideas around art and speciality, and how this current moment has affected the experience of art. The only thing that I would like to say is for the friends that are watching us and for you guys, next week, same time, we will have, I don't know if Marina is going, okay, Marina will announce that.
We'll have next, also to say that taking a few things that we said today and about site specificity and physicality and the relationship of the body with the space, we'll be taking these things further a bit next week on our roundtable discussion that we have again on Thursday at the same time. With us we'll have 4 academics and practitioners, both from the UK and from Cyprus. Just quickly to say their names, it's Dr. Socrates Stradis from the University of Cyprus, Dr. Elada Evangelou, who is the Artistic Director of the Buffer Print Festival, Dr. Catherine Maffioletti from Greenwich University, and Chan Gao from Royal College of Art, and we'll be discussing about the changes in the post-pandemic era of the public space and in relation to social distancing, but also public art and how that will be affected. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Anyone wants to say something? I think we should unmute all. and say also that this discussion was recorded and it will be available on YouTube, and the link to the YouTube video will be available in the website of the exhibition, which we should mention at least once in this panel discussion. It's www.culturalchc.co.uk/togetherapart. Thank you very much, guys, and keep safe, and above everything, keep being creative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.